for this joint venture between Rollins Regional Chamber and Telegraph and the university to bring you this forum on our Senate seat. I won't take up any more of your time. Let me introduce April from the chamber to say a few words of welcome, and we'll get started right away.
Thank you, Helen. On behalf of the Rollins Regional Chamber, we are delighted to have each of you join us here tonight as we engage in the political process, learning a little bit more about the 6 candidates who have been willing to jump into the race to fill the seat vacated by the long-serving Senator Ross Collison for District 20. We could not do this without the wonderful partnerships, as Helen mentioned, of Middle Georgia State University and the Telegraph, and also joining us for this event and helping us to bring this great crowd we have gathered tonight. We have the House and County GOP, the Middle Georgia Republican Women, the Wardtown Young Republicans, as well as the Perry Area Chamber of Commerce, who have all partnered with us to make this evening possible. Thank you all for joining us, and make sure to let your friends know who couldn't join us tonight that this event is being streamed live on 13wamazing.com. So if you want to take your phones out for just a second and text them and let them know, we would certainly appreciate that. And I have the great pleasure of introducing Mr. Don Bailey with the Macon Telegraph.
Good evening, everyone. Appreciate you coming out. I have the difficult job of introducing our editorial page editor, Charles Richardson. He's going to be emceeing the event tonight. I think it's very easy to introduce Charles, so I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. Charles, if you want to get started, come on up, and thank everyone for coming out tonight.
I think this is live. Thank you all for coming. And again, I'd like to thank these 5 people who jump into a race that the election is on December 1st. We have to remember that because that's a real point. So, let me introduce them to you. They are Vivian Child. They'll be talking about themselves because many of you may or may not know them. They are John Martin. They are Brooks Kiesler, Larry Walker III, James Pence, and Michael Reese. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I may not call on you exactly the way you're sitting. So just bear with me if you will. All right? We'll start with 1 minute of introduction. We'll go from my right to left, and ladies always go first. Tell us a little bit about yourself again, and why you want to be the state senator from District 20.
Okay, my name is Vivian Charles, and first of all, I'm going to ask you for your vote, because a vote for me will be a voice for you in Atlanta. I have been in this community since 1999, and I hit the ground running. I've served in on many boards. I've chaired many of those that I've also served on. I've also written a book. I've been an author. It's called Stranger, Broken in the Political Arena, and it asks, are we sacrificing America for political gain? Just want to make the community together. Just want to be your voice, because I will do that by fighting for our national space. We can do this together by fighting for jobs, by fighting for an educational system that surpasses all others. Remember, a vote for me is a voice for you.
Mr. Martin.
I want to say thank you for having us tonight. It's certainly a pleasure to be here. I am John Martin. I'm from Lawrence County. Dexter, Georgia is my home. I was raised by a Baptist preacher, a praying mom. She's in the audience tonight. I'm certainly proud of that. If you're looking for a candidate to go to Atlanta that's going to be the establishment candidate, then I'm not your guy. If you're looking for a conservative that will go to Atlanta, fight for our values, fight for what we believe in, then I'm your man. It gives me an honor today to announce that I'm humbled to have Georgia Right to Life endorsement. I'm proud to have them behind me and look forward to serving you in Atlanta.
Mr. Houston.
Thank you all for being here tonight. My name is Brooks Kiesler. I was born and raised here in Warner Robins by a single mother who's back there today. I went to George Southern University, where I met my beautiful wife, who is also here. My grandfather is here, who retired from Robins Air Force Base, raised his family here, which is why I wanted to raise my family here. I'm running for state senate because I want to be your voice for our educators. I want to be the voice for our veterans, for our military. I want to be the voice for everyone for our community. I am our community. Again, I was born and raised here with our values. I know I'm young. I've been told that I'm young, but I want to say that I have passion, I have vigor for this position. I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't think that I was the right voice for us. We have 6 candidates willing to step up and do this, and that's phenomenal for our community. That shows how wonderful we are. I feel that I'm the best for that. My wife asked me, are you nervous for doing this tonight? And I said no, because we get to share what we believe. We get to share why your voice matters, why your vote matters. You're going to hear 6 great things tonight from 6 great people. I believe I'm the best, and I would appreciate your vote. If not, please support with passion the 6 people that are up here. Thank you very much.
Mr. Warren.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you all for being here, and thank you for those responsible for hosting this event to allow us to demonstrate our qualifications for this important job. I'm Larry Walker, and I want to be your next state senator. I love Middle Georgia, and I have deep roots here. I was born here, met my wife Adrian here, raised a family, built a successful business, and I've been an active leader in the community. I'm running because we need a proven leader that is capable of effectively representing us and fighting for our conservative Middle Georgia principles in the state Senate. I'm uniquely qualified to get the job done on day one. I ask for your vote, I ask for your prayers, and I ask for your support. Thank you.
Last but not least, Mr. Reeves. Oh, I'm sorry. Told you I was going to do that. Mr. Pettis.
Next to last, but not least, maybe. My name is James Pettis, and I'm running for State District 20. Tell you a little bit about myself in this brief minute. I'm a husband, I'm a father of 2, I'm a resident here in Houston County, and I'm a business owner. I was raised in Allentown, right down the road by my mom and dad who are here tonight, and my 2 sisters. Early in life, they taught me the value of education, hard work, and perseverance, and that you can do anything you set your mind to. I currently own several businesses and employ over 100 people, around 125, it fluctuates from day to day. But I tell you that, not at all to brag, but because I'm a problem solver. I understand it, I get it. I know what it's like to make payroll every other Friday. I know how to grow jobs, I know how to create jobs. You will be hard-pressed to find anyone who will work as hard as myself. I have that work ethic in my business, and I will certainly take that to Atlanta to represent State District 20. Thank you.
Now, Mr. Reeves.
All right, thank you. Hi, I'm Mike Reeves. I'm living proof that the past does not have to predict the future. I acknowledge my past. I made quite a few mistakes, and some of those came with a heavy price tag. I learned from those mistakes. In 1992, I met my beautiful wife, Kathy. While attending church with her, I accepted Jesus as my Savior. And by accepting Jesus, I remember a Bible verse that sticks with me. It says, Philippians 3:13-14 says, forget what lies behind you, strain forward towards the goal of the prize. And that's exactly what I've done since then. I have 3 children. One's a graduate from FSU. I have a daughter that's a junior at UGA, and I have a son that's a junior at Embry-Riddle in Daytona Beach, Florida. Not only do I have a loving, supporting family, I also own 3 businesses in District 20. Being a citizen and a business owner in District 20, I think it's important for our voices to be heard. I support our military and our veterans. I have family members that are veterans. I see the struggles they face. I support our law enforcement. I think they have a tough time policing our neighborhoods and our communities. And I support our teachers. I think they are the ones that are shaping our future, and we need to give them all the help we can. I think it's time that we cut wasteful spending in all areas of government in Georgia. I think we need to... Excuse me?
Time.
Oh, okay. But anyways, and Mike Reese, and I appreciate your vote, and vote I like. Thank you.
Let's get right to the question. As you know, Ross Tollison was a long-serving member of the State Senate. He was a member of the Appropriations Committee, Natural Resources and Environment. He was the chairman there. He was the vice chair of the Rules Committee and on the Transportation Committee. If you were elected, and let's start with Mr. Reese, what committees would you like to serve on? And what do you think your chances are of getting any of those plum assignments?
Well, I would want to serve on wherever I've been needed at. I think I have a strong background in transportation, aviation, and I know the environment pretty good. So, being a utility contractor, I know what it takes to take care of our environment.
Let's just come on down the way opposite. Let's go with the guy that I tried to forget before, Ms. Pettis.
I would go in with very open mind, Mr. Charles, and you can have great dreams and aspirations of which committee you would like to be on going in as a rookie. You would come and work hard to be on those, to fill those shoes of Senator Tollison. I spoke with a logger, tree harvester the other day, and we would certainly work hard to keep that industry going and work hard to build appropriations and try to fill issues.
Mr. Walker.
If I could choose, I would choose to be on the Appropriations Committee. That's the committee that deals with the state's budget and money. Secondly, I'd love to be on the Rules Committee. That committee determines what legislation gets brought forth to the floor of the Senate. But the main thing, my main objective is to put the people of Senate District 20 first and to represent them in the best way that I can.
Mr. Keesler.
My passion is education. I'm an executive vice president for an education company, and I believe that our state is struggling right now with how we're educating our children. I would want to be a voice for education, obviously appropriations. Senator Tollison left big shoes to fill. I think all six of us would tell you that it's going to be hard to step in and immediately fill his role. But talking with Senator Mike Dugan, talking with the other senators across the state, we're going to have to go in, get our feet wet, learn quickly to represent you. So Mr. Pettis said something similar. We're going to take the role that's given to us and represent this district well.
Mr. Martin.
Charles, I would certainly want to be on the economic development. The one thing that I hear out whenever we're talking to the people, it's about jobs, jobs, jobs. Economic development would be that one that I would want to be a part of. I think the experience of being involved in Lawrence County and some of the things that we have going on over there with economic development, being a part of a team, a delegation that went over to Germany, recruiting businesses to locate in Georgia, specifically in Lawrence County, gives me a unique approach to that and insight. And then the second thing that people are talking about is education. So I would say economic development and education.
Thank you. Mrs. Child.
There again, no matter where they put me, I will be dedicated and committed to serving this district well. My background though is education. I've been an educator for many years, and I've actually been behind the desk as a teacher and also in administration. So not only would I be able to offer a lot to the state on that committee, I will offer a lot to this community by being on that committee. I also like rules. Serving as the district chairman for the district for a couple of years, I was on the rules committee. So I know what it takes to do that, and I would like to be right there at the table as we're making decisions for this district.
Let's go to our next question, and we'll start with you this time, Mr. Martin. Speaking about education, what are your thoughts about the Education Reform Commission that was formed by Governor Deal, and some of the thoughts of the education funding formula that is being proposed by that committee?
Boy, those are great questions, Charles. First of all, I respect the governor's approach of trying to do something with education. I think everybody in the room understands we've got to do a better job. But I do have a concern that if we get involved with this initiative and we go in and take over a school district, what's the way out? If it doesn't work, how How is the state going to remove itself from taking over a local education board? Then what happens with that? Now, I know what the governor would say, well, it's going to work. Well, I think we've heard that before from a lot of other people. The funding issue is certainly a concern, and I know QBE has bounced around. Here's what we need to do. We need to, number one, listen to teachers. I think we've got to get back to that. We need to listen to teachers and what is going on in the classroom and what they need. If our state is expecting bureaucrats to make decisions in Atlanta and in Washington regarding local education issues, we're going to fail. We need to make sure that we give our teachers the opportunity to teach and prepare a workforce that will be prepared for the jobs that are coming down the road in the next 10 to 20 years.
Mr. Keesler.
So I think education reform is a necessity. I think Governor Deal has taken the right step to begin revamping what we're doing. The first thing that we've got to do is remove ourselves from Common Core. The teachers that have been teaching for 10 years have gone through 4 different types of standards in their 10-year career. 10 years. So you're talking about teachers that may be 32, 33, 34 years old that have now gone through 4 different learning curves of how to educate their children. That's ridiculous. Our students are being assessed 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, and 11th grade. Teachers are now teaching to a test, to a standard, rather than teaching to inspire the way they did when we were younger. That's the thing we've got to get rid of. I work with teachers all across the country, and I've been to states who are not dependent on Common Core standards, and it works. So my thing that I want to take to to Governor Deal, sorry, I work with a lot of superintendents, I can't even talk now, apologize, to Governor Deal is we've got to reform how we are assessing our children. It needs to be done in 4th grade, it needs to be done in 7th grade, and it needs to be done in 11th grade. What you're going to hear a lot of good ideas, but what are our plans? How are we going to do it? Let's minimize our standardized testing. Governor Deal's doing a good job of getting there. We've got to go further, and I think Richard Woods is going to be a good step for that.
Mr. Walker.
The reform I want to see in education is to restore local control. I want to see the local school superintendents and administrators and teachers be in charge of educating our children. I'm tired of mandates coming out of Washington and coming out of Atlanta telling us how to educate our children. I have more confidence in the local folks to do a better job. I think we need to restore control to them, let them make those decisions. I do, however, of course, think the state needs to set high standards for school systems and hold them accountable to that. I think the control needs to be locally. Regarding funding, we've had austerity cuts to education during the recession that have not been restored. And I will support restoring funding to fully fund education so that we can have smaller class sizes and a better quality education in Georgia.
Mr. Pettis.
Mr. Charles, I'm a former teacher, married to a teacher. I understand the issues with education. In short, I'm for higher standards, but as Mr. Walker said, local control. Our House and County schools do a great job here, and they have to fight tooth and nail to continue to do a good job here. When I talk with my wife, I'm in favor of letting teachers teach. This education is just another example, as I said earlier, of government overreach. We can have great plans, but plans without successful implementation and accountability, they go awry. I currently serve on the board of House and County Career Academy, and the former chair, Mr. Paul Hillis, is here today. House and County Career Academy was nominated the Career Academy of the state. Not only do we need to educate children, our students, we also need to work on certain things as soft skills so they'd be equipped to go apply for that job if they're not going to school for formal education such as college, but offer them tech skills. Soft skills also give them educational citizenship. Voter turnout is extremely low, but more importantly, financial responsibility. Not just education formally, but through all aspects of life. Thank you.
Mr. Reese.
I believe the education reform that we need to look at is our trade schools and technical schools. What we've done is our classes, now we don't have any tradesmen anymore. We don't have any HVAC contractors, we don't have any refrigeration people, we don't have any plumbers, we don't have any electricians. These people are going to shape our future. We're going to need those in the near future because they're just not taking those classes anymore. And what we've done, we've turned all of our technical schools into colleges, where now you have to go get a college degree and get a trade, where we need to go back to basic skilled tradesmen and get them online where they can come straight out of school, people that are not going to college, and have a job that they can be productive straight out of school.
Mr. Childs.
On reform, as I said, I have sat behind the desk. And what we are doing with education is we're taking creativity out of the classroom. There was a time when when I was given my curriculum, I would take that and put it and apply it to the students that I had in my class. That is no longer available because now every teacher is worried about making sure that that child can take a test. Not whether or not they learn the material and retain it, but they have to get past a test. So yes, we are over-testing our students. But if we are really unhappy with the way schools are being handled in a community, we should be going to our local school boards. We actually let people to take care of what's happening in our particular schools. If they're not doing the job properly, when another election comes up, get someone else. If we're not happy with the principal at the school, take it to your superintendent. That's what we need to do. If we're always talking about we are for limited government, then we need to limit government at the top and allow the local school boards and our teachers to get back to teaching.
Thank you. Next question. This also has to do with education. How many in the audience, use the microphone, Charles. How many in the audience understand that a 16-year-old child can drop out of school legally? There's a bill before the House has been dropped continually over the past few years. It's HB 39. It would raise that to 17. This is just a yes or no question, and I'll go through each one of you and start reading it together. Would you vote that bill, depending on its final form, of course? It's a very simple one-page bill right now. Either yes or no to raise that age limit to 17.
No.
Explain, please.
Okay, great. I believe, and Mr. Reese talked about it earlier, with the way the current education system is, we're sending children there, students there, who are getting time and time and time. No Child Left Behind, I think, has been a complete bust for our country, for our economy. If a child at 16 can drop out and go elsewhere, go to trade school, go get a GED and become a productive citizen in the state, then I don't believe that we should raise that. Why are we keeping people who don't want to be there that could actually be a hindrance to our schools? I don't feel we need to raise the age to 17.
Mr. Walker.
I would want to talk to our local school superintendents and get their take on that, and talk to some teachers and administrators. I would tend to say that sounds like a good idea. I feel like if they drop out of school at age 16, they're going to not be able to get gainful employment, and they're going to be a drain on us as taxpayers. And I think the longer they can be in school and have a chance to be educated, the better. But I would ask for some feedback from my school superintendents to see how they feel about it and follow their direction on that.
Mr. Pettis.
Mr. Charles, I would vote no, but as you know, the devil is in the details. So that would require a lot of research, both at the, as Mr. Walker said, at the school level. But I also believe that if someone does not want to be there, forcing them to be there would only take away from the other students and would stand a good chance of dragging the whole class down. So I think there will be other options. We would like to exhaust all options before they drop out and give them opportunity to pursue other options, maybe even GED or something along that line, give them options so they can be, vital members of society.
Mr. Reese.
I think I would say yes. I mean, you got a child that's 17 years old, his brain's not even fully developed. I mean, he don't know what he wants. He don't know what's going to happen in his life. I mean, he's got a long way to go to be a man. And I think, if you raise it up and you say force him, but I mean, if you give him an incentive to go to school and have teachers that teach and they can learn, then I don't think I have a problem with that. I mean, the problem I see is is we have people in there that teachers are handcuffed. They can't discipline a student. They can't teach them the way that they need to teach them. And, you know, I think we need to let the teachers get back to teaching and, you know, help the students.
Ms. Childs.
There are so many opportunities for partnership. I sit on the Central Georgia Technical College's right now Advisory Adult Ed Board. We just need to be educated. There are so many students who have just given up. Again, in the classroom, they're being tested beyond their means. But if they knew that, you know what, if you go over to a technical college, you can spend a few semesters, come out, you can have skill sets that will apply you to work as a welder or as a barber, all types of jobs. I think our children are frustrated. And you know why they're frustrated in the classroom? The teachers are frustrated in the classroom. So we need to do a better job with this partnership that we're having. We've got to have a partnership with industry and schools and just better educate our child on what they can and cannot do. Now, I'm also a mother. And so my child is, the decision I made should come from my home, I think. We need to stop telling people what to do from their home. I think some things need to be decided at home and not in the legislature.
Mr. Martin.
I would say no, Charles. I was having a conversation with a teacher, math teacher, and he said, you know, part of my problem is in order to graduate from school, you have to have Algebra 1, Algebra 2, Geometry, Trig, and Cal to get a diploma, period. And he said half of my class is doing great, and they're excited. The other half, they're completely not interested. And he said, I can't reach them. And they tell me, why do I need to have Algebra 2, Trig, Cal, Geometry, when I'm going to work at XYZ location and that's not required? Now, what we need to do is look at that curriculum path and to give some options. The CATE program, the college and career academies that are out there, we need to be able to allow those students as early as 8th grade to begin to choose that path versus keeping them in one line in order to gain a diploma. And I think we can see some better results than what we're seeing.
Thank you, sir. I think this next question is going to be a short one, but I've got to ask it anyway. What do you think of Common Core? And this one will start with Mr. Walker.
I've talked to the school superintendents in all 4 counties of this district, met with them, discussed this issue with them, talked to teachers. There are portions of Common Core that are beneficial. It's the crux of it that I like and that they seem to like is standardization of the curriculum, because we live here in Houston County, and we in particular, but in the other counties too, we have a transient society. We have a lot of people moving into Georgia from other states, and if you have a more standardized curriculum, it makes it easier for those students to be assimilated into our school system and to succeed. That's the part of Common Core that I think is beneficial. The part that we all hate is the movement, it seems, coming out of Washington to have a liberal agenda with regard to curriculum. And I would be strongly opposed to that and would fight that hard. I want to have local control of that.
Mr. Pettis.
Yes, sir. I'm not in favor of Common Core. Being married to an educator, I hear all about it and the implementation. I'm certainly in favor of higher standards and certainly in favor of local control, but I'm not in favor of Common Core.
Mr. Reese.
We all know what we think of Common Core. I mean, we need to use it only in extreme circumstances where they can't learn. If that's the only block that we have to use, that's what we need to use. But other than that, we need to standardize and get it out of there.
Mr. Childs.
My feeling on it, the word itself, common, just doesn't go right as far as I'm concerned. And to me, it has dumbed down education somewhat. Let me give you an example. We worry about a child moving from one state or from one county to another. I raised 3 children. My husband was military. For 30 years, we traveled all over, overseas, different states. I now have a doctor, I have a lawyer, and I have a vice principal of the school without Common Core. So that's my little comment.
This goes to show you what having good parents will do for you, doesn't it? Mr. Martin.
No, sir, I'm not in favor of it. Part of the problem, whenever I talk to teachers, we keep moving the goalpost on them. We've got No Child Left Behind, Georgia Milestone Testing, Common Core, it's Initiative of the Week, Flavor of the Month. And our teachers are the ones that are paying the price in the classroom, but ultimately it's our kids. They're the ones that are seeing the teachers have to move the goalpost every year. And we can't have that. Our teachers need to be able to get their legs under them, know what they're going to teach, know what the target is, know what the goal. And I think we'd be a whole lot better off if we get back to that. Having Washington, D.C. involved in our curriculum is not the answer. You guys know that. We know that. Atlanta's not the answer to the issue. Local involvement, listening to the teachers is the key.
Thank you very much. Ms. Kessler.
I think we all know that Common Core started here in Georgia. We were one of the states that originally adopted the standards, created the standards. Higher standards is a phenomenal thing. We're doing it wrong. I work for a company where our company actually had to change everything within our product to align to Common Core so that we could provide curriculum. Why? Because schools who are in charge, should be in charge of teaching our children, were not allowed to purchase anything that was not aligned to Common Core standards. So we're telling the teachers whose passion it is to educate our children, you have to do it this way. And then, oh, by the way, 2 years from now, you're gonna have to do it this way. And then you're gonna have to do it this way. As Mr. Martin said, the people that are really struggling are our students. Teachers are on average now teaching for about 5 years. I have teachers that made an impact on my life that retired after 30, 35, 40. Some of my best friends who are principals in this county have told their children, do not become a teacher. How sad is that? And why is that? Because of the burden that we put on them because of Common Core standards. I've mentioned it a couple times, it's even on my little pamphlet you'll see. The first thing we need to do is remove ourselves from Common Core, bring back the local control, let the people that we trust to educate and love our children, let them dictate what they teach our children.
Thank you. Next question. Bibb County, get the microphone, Charles. The Bibb County DA, David Cook, just filed suit against 85 convenience stores with 600 gaming machines in 31 counties, including right here in Houston, Bibb, Crisp, Baldwin, and Macon counties. In a 3-month period, these customers played more than $12 million. The suit alleges that the payout was about $8 million. And as many of you know, that's illegal. Is it time for the Georgia General Assembly to outlaw these machines as they did in South Carolina? Or should the state open itself up to gambling? Casino gambling, to be exact. Where do you stand on that issue? And under what conditions could you see casino gambling being allowed here in Georgia? And final question is it any worse than the Georgia lottery? And we'll start with Mr. Pettis.
I'm right quick, Mr. Charles, I'm right quick. First, we will start with the electronic gambling in convenience stores. I will be for passing legislation to stop the gambling, as you referenced earlier, the $12 million spend or the $8 million, I think was payout. They are making a profit off the backs of, I'm not for that, I'm against it. Second, casinos. I think casinos and gambling in Georgia, if I read correctly, casinos and gambling in Georgia are tied to the Hope Scholarship and funding education. I think it's two separate issues. If we need to examine the Hope Scholarship, put it in a bucket by itself, and if it can stand on its own, then we need to deal with Hope Scholarship. But to piggyback casino gambling with education is not necessarily right. Casinos. I would be against casinos in Georgia. I think what I read about it would kind of fall under a legislative monopoly, where about 4 areas, if you will be given the right to a casino. believer what one generation does with acceptance, the next generation does in excess. So once you go down that road, you just have to be very, very careful.
Mr. Reese.
I think the gambling machines in the convenience stores ought to be removed. I think they're just it's the same thing as a slot machine. I mean, if people are putting their money in, I've been in these stores, I work in some of them, and I see these people in there, they sit over there and they have their own little rooms, they're smoking cigarettes back there, and they stay in there all day long and run on that machine. And you know, that money there, you know, they're taking money away from their families, I'm sure. And as far as casino gambling goes, I mean, you know, look at Atlantic City, what it done did. And, you know, I think that, like Mr. Pettis said here, you know, we can't pick winners and losers with a free enterprise. I mean, that's what they're going to do. They're going to bring in MGM or two or three other gaming companies, and they're going to let them be the only winners in this. And then that'll be a monopoly for them. So I'm definitely not for casino gambling.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Childs.
I too am not for casino gambling. And my example also was Atlantic City was one of the most booming places we used to hear about, and now it's almost a ghost town, as some people might say. But it's for other reasons as well. I just think, again, education is in everything. We need to show people that we don't have to take $1 and drop it in somebody's machine to try to make $10 so we can have food on the table. But we need to also give people an option. Some people stay at those machines all day long. I know some of them. So I would like to see them removed, only because I've seen what it has done to some homes. But some people are sitting there because they're thinking, if I just pull just one last time, that'll be that money that I need to pay the light bill next week, or the gas bill. So we need to inform our community on better ways, but we have to also give them better ways to see hope in this community we live in.
Mr. Martin.
I would be in favor of passing legislation to get the gaming machines out of our convenience stores in South Carolina is done. One thing we can do is look at the lottery revenues are up, but unfortunately the cost of education is up. So what we run into is not necessarily a revenue problem, but we run into a spending problem. And that really hurts us, and we have to make sure that we get ourselves in a position of controlling our costs. As it comes to gambling, I'm against that, but I can tell you that this is a real game that is afoot here in Georgia, with the casinos putting in the lobbyists here in Georgia. They're already sending out the money to the committee chairs. We better stand vigilant on this, and we better make sure that we hold our legislators accountable on this issue because of what it's going to bring to the state of Georgia. We cannot sell ourselves out for $1. And unfortunately, when we're going to have this great windfall of money that comes in. Unfortunately, no one shows us the cost cutting that happens on the backside.
Mr. Keesler.
So I would like to look into the legislation a little bit more because I'm going to be I'm going to counter these gentlemen and Ms. Vivian. People in Georgia are traveling to North Carolina, they're traveling to Alabama, and they're traveling to Florida to gamble now. And if there's something that we can do to generate revenue through the gambling, my biggest concern is going to be the crime. Everyone that associates MGM or you associate a casino, you associate the crime cost. I would really like to weigh in and look at this because I do believe we're conservatives here. We want to lower our taxes, and how can we lower our taxes? By generating revenue. Florida doesn't have a state income tax, Tennessee doesn't have a state income tax. This could be a potential, especially if they put it next to the Georgia World Congress Center where they're looking to put it. It has the potential to be a large revenue stream that we're able to bring in money from tourists that come in from across the country. The electronic gambling machines, again, it has to come with regulation. The issue now is, you mentioned $12 million being brought in. Nobody's getting that money because it's going to the people who own the gas stations who may not necessarily be sending the money back here in the Georgia economy. We need to figure out a way to regulate it because, again, I don't believe that I should legislate my morality. I personally understand from a biblical perspective where you can be for gambling, you can be against gambling, but I believe that if it has a positive benefit for our economy here in Georgia, I would not be opposed to listening more.
Thank you. Mr. Walker?
I would support legislation to outlaw the video gaming machines. Evidently, they're being used illegally. We see that time and again. I've talked to the sheriffs and the police chiefs, and it's a constant problem for them. And also preys on, I think, a segment of our society that is a lower socioeconomic segment and maybe less educated, and I would be supportive of that legislation. I oppose casinos. I think they would bring in crime and corruption. I think we have a lot more positive ways that we can grow jobs and improve our economy. Atlanta has a lot of great things to offer. I don't think we need to go down that path. I don't trust the DeKalb County government or the Fulton County government to regulate those and not have corruption, and I would oppose casinos in Georgia.
Thank you all. Our next question. Last year, a religious freedom bill was opposed by the state's chamber. The question, do we really need a religious freedom bill? And are you for it or against it? And Mr. Reese, you have first shot at this.
Well, I would be for it.
Do we really need one?
I'm sorry?
Do we really need one?
You know, I'd have to give it a lot of thought. I haven't really done my homework. So I would have to actually get that and look at it in detail, but I'm sure there's room for improvement in all areas.
Mr. Childs?
When that bill first came up, and it was passed in the Senate, I think 37 to 15 and something by that vote, I too asked the question, with the things that we already have on the books, is it something that we really need? I think though what is happening is people have a fear now of, especially, and I am a Christian, and I say that loudly and proudly, and a lot of people are thinking that so many rights are being taken away based on your religious beliefs. So I understand why they had it there again. It was already passed through the Senate once before. But here we go again. We keep talking about we need to limit this, and we need to limit that, and we need smaller government, and we need this. Yet we still want to go into our homes and tell people what they can or cannot do. If it come up in the Senate, and I've been studying it, would I vote for it? When I said before, I thought, well, I'm not sure if it's something that's needed. As I looked at it, I thought, you know, that may be something that I could vote for. But again, I can't sit here tonight and tell you every decision I'm gonna make, because I don't know what the constituents in this district want. It's not fair for me to come here with hardcore yes, no answers all night long, unless I have really true. I said I want to be a voice for the people, not a voice for Vivian, but a voice for District 20. I need to talk to District 20, at least on something. Some things I'm just right there, I know I'm gonna stand if I stand alone on them. But at some time during this election, or if I'm there, I need to talk to the people. And so if I'm gonna be a voice for the people, then I need to hear what they have to say.
Mr. Martin?
Yes, I would support the RFRA bill. I believe it was Senate Bill 129 that has been passed. It's over at the House, waiting for them to make a move. Our Senator Tolleson supported that. Tommy Williams supported that. I would certainly be in line with those gentlemen. I can tell you that we as Christians are being attacked every day. And one thing close to home, we just recently during the football season at West Laurel had a threatened lawsuit over prayer before the game. Any of you may have seen that. Then we moved to having a silent prayer. It was very effective. And as we prepare to play the national anthem, the band plays Amazing Grace. Well, now we're being threatened with a lawsuit for playing music. There's no words, and I always thought the lyrics is what made something good or bad. We're talking about music. So yes, I think we need to stand up for our religious rights, our freedoms, and I would certainly support that.
Mr. Kessler.
RFRA was passed in the early 90s as a federal bill, actually supported by Ted Kennedy and supported, Bill Clinton brought it in. And the bill, the RFRA bill is actually almost identical to the federal bill. So it's a right we have as Americans. Why not have the same right as Georgians? The issue you're going to hear is going to be discrimination. That's the word. As I pour through these different issues, and I sit with several people who are currently legislators and people in our community, my question is, are we discriminating against those that we should not discriminate against? I'm a Christian and I believe we should love all people. That being said, we are being discriminated against with our beliefs. I believe if you step foot in Georgia, you should be allowed to practice your religious beliefs regardless of what it is. And I think that RFRA helps support that from the state level. So yes, I would definitely support RFRA.
Mr. Walker.
I support the Religious Freedom Bill. I believe in religious freedom for all businesses and all citizens in Georgia. And I want to make sure that my pastor or other pastors are not brought into a civil suit because they refuse to marry a same-sex couple. I'm afraid that if we don't have state legislation, we could have bakers or florists or wedding planners sue because they are not willing to participate in the same-sex ceremony, marriage ceremony. So I support the Religious Freedom Bill, and I do think we need it in Georgia. Over 20 or more other states have passed similar legislation without problems. I'm not for discriminating. It is the Religious Freedom Bill. It's not the Christian Freedom Bill. It's for all religions, and I support it.
Mr. Pettis.
Yes, sir. I am for religious freedom. I echo what Mr. Walker just said, pretty much verbatim. I think you might have been reading my notes.
I get you, mate.
Good answer. Good answer.
But I think this is just another example.
I already voted, sorry.
Of government overreach where we don't we don't get to the root of the problem. We just treat the symptoms. We have knee-jerk reactions, a quick fix. Let's quick fix it and send it on down the line for future generations. That's what we have to stop. Leaders have to lead. They have to fully vet, count the consequences, count the costs. But again, I am in support of religious freedom.
Mr. Reese.
I'm in support of it too. I agree with our candidates here. I think they've said it to a T. I mean, I think they ought to have the right to serve whoever they want to. When you go in a restaurant, they have the right. So I think people ought to have the right.
Next question. Last session, there was a $1 billion tax increase for transportation passed by the General Assembly. What do you think of that bill? And what do you think about the tax increase? And we'll start with Mr. Martin.
You know, we all, I think, sit up here talk about cutting taxes. This certainly was a much heated debate. Certainly, if I would have been in legislature at that moment, I would have voted no against that. And part of that is we still don't know the details of that bill and how it's going to be unraveled. I think we were very fortunate at the time that it went into effect that the gas prices have dropped, but I can assure you we're going to have to pay for it very, very soon.
Mr. Kessler?
I also would have voted no, and the reason for that is the last minute there was added a $5 hotel motel tax to the transportation tax bill. How does that affect you as Middle Georgians? It's $5 added on to every hotel that you stay at in the state of Georgia. That's not a big deal when you're in Atlanta and it's a $200, $300 hotel, but when you're in Warner Robins or you're in Hawkinsville or you're in Cochran and your hotel is $75, you've now added $5 to that bill. Who's getting the money from that? Who's being impacted? When you think about Wright Pat sending down a group to come train at Robins, they're going to stay at hotels that are here in our community. Well, guess what? There's now a $5 hotel for a 10-day stay of 100 people who are traveling to our community. Do you think that the government's going to say, yes, let's keep going to Robins? Or do you think they're going to send people from Robins to Ohio to save that extra money? We've got to go and look at this stuff. We've got to stop adding additional taxes that benefit Atlanta but hurt us in our community. So I would definitely have voted no on transportation tax.
Mr. Walker?
Well, I'm not here to second guess what the legislature did last year or 5 years ago or 10 years ago. The bill passed and it is current law. I happen to agree with Brooks on this issue. I think the hotel motel tax is, I'm more concerned with that. I think we need to revisit that and see if they're in a more fair way. In Atlanta, your average hotel price might be, let's say, $100 or $150 a night. In Senate District 20, the average hotel stay might be $50 or $60 a night. So it's not equitable. If you're paying $5 in Senate District 20, that's 10% tax, whereas if you're paying $5 in the metro area, it's 5% tax or 3% tax. So to me, it's just inherently unfair, and I do think it's going to hurt our economy here in the travel industry, and we have such a large contractor workforce at Robbins that comes in here and stays in hotels, and I think we need to look at that.
Mr. Pettis.
Yes, sir. I would have voted no to the $1 billion tax increase. I am not in favor of any new taxes. I think if we have an infrastructure problem with our roads, I think we can find that by trimming excess money from the budget to help build the infrastructure. But as Mr. Walker said, it is a law. We can spend all sessions trying to go back and appeal. I think what it really boils down to is a trust issue. We don't trust government. But since it is law, I think we need to be transparent, we need to be good stewards, good money managers, and hold our lawmakers accountable.
Mr. Reese.
I would have voted against it. What it did, it took gas from 16 cents to 29% overnight, which is, they're trying to come up with $1 billion. All right, what they done is they took the local tax from all our districts, and they tell us that we have to use it for transportation, but we can't use it for anything else. We can't use it to increase our teachers' pay, our law enforcement, our firefighters. So we're kind of handcuffed with it. I mean, it was a bad law. It needs to be repealed.
Mrs. Childs.
I'm not in favor of raising taxes either. And I tell you, being a military wife, it was a standard joke among some of us. We would get a pay raise, and we knew that in January, all the prices in the commissary was going to go up. So we never even saw the raise that we would receive. So to me, to raise taxes on someone who already is feeling less money in their pockets is not right. So.
This next question is one that you can use the microphone, Charles. Although I don't really need it, I know. There's no yes or no answer, but this is the way Atlanta works. I want to know what you will do as a legislator if you're elected to avoid the arm twisting that will come to you once you're elected by your own leadership. Because you know the arm twisting goes on. How will you resist that? And we'll start with you, Mr. Kessler.
Well, politics are politics. There are people that hate them, there are people that love them. And I'm a man of integrity. I'm a man of my word. I sat up here, 5 people said they would be against casinos. I told you that I would look into it. Everything that I tell you is what I believe because of my conviction. When I'm in Atlanta, I want to vote with a clean conscience. I want to vote based on what my district believes we should vote on, and that's who I am. That's who I've always been. If that earns your vote, I'm grateful. I'm honored by that. But if it does not, then I'm okay with that as well. When I get to Atlanta, I'm going to be the same person. I have convictions and I have passions that I'm in. If I'm for something, I will vote yes. If I am against something, I will vote no.
Mr. Walker.
Charles, I'm not running to serve the Georgia Chamber of Commerce, and I'm not running to serve the Senate leadership. I'm running to serve the people of Senate District 20. And you have my word, as your senator, I'm going to put your interests first and work for you. So that's how I'll avoid it. I'm a grown man, I'm mature, I can stand on my own 2 feet and I can handle it, I promise you.
Mr. Pettis.
I would resist the arm twisting, Mr. Charles, because when I come in, I'm a blank slate. I'm not a politician. My loyalty lies with SB 20 to represent those people in the 4 counties. Being a business owner in those 4 counties, or 3 of the 4 counties, I have a great pulse on what's going on. And I will remember the people who got me there, and my loyalty will lie with them.
Mr. Reese.
I've stood up to people my whole life. I've been told I couldn't do things, but I've always done them. You know, I might not be the popular guy up in Atlanta, but I'm going to speak my mind and I'm going to vote with the choice of the people, and that's just the way I am.
Mr. Childs.
I really don't see that as a problem. As I said before, I'm willing to stand even if I stand alone. I'm not owing to anyone, which is great. And it will be District 20 who send me there. Not anyone else, but District 20. And I will represent them well, and I will do the things that are right for this district and for that alone, for that district. People have to remember, when I say that every voice matters or that I will be a voice for you, I mean that. I will be a voice for the district. Because at the end of the day, if I'm not doing that, take the seat away. That's what I say. If you're not doing what you promise someone you're gonna do, then you ought to be willing to go back home.
Mr. Martin.
I think the key is, and everybody's hit on it, so, you know, you got to remember the people that put you there and who's going to hold you accountable. Too many times what's happening is our people are getting to Atlanta and then they're worried about the next cycle, the next election. How's this going to affect me? How's that going to affect me? What we have to do is be willing to be public servants first, be accountable to the people that put us in that position, and then make sure that we're connected with them and communicating with them, and being willing to stand up and say, listen, the district I represent, this is where we stand, and stand on your own 2 feet and resist the arm twisting, and if it twists, let it twist. That's okay. If that means that they take that pound of flesh out of me, that's part of it. But we have to be willing to go to Atlanta and remember the people that put us there.
Thank you. Republicans have a history of supporting small and big business. One of the issues that's come up in the Georgia General Assembly seems to contradict that stance, and it seems to stifle competition. For an example, a compromise bill to allow craft beer brewers to sell their product in their facilities was fought and sabotaged by lawmakers. Now, next year, we're talking about Airbnb. We're talking about some other, what would be called a innovative industry. The taxi industry is fighting against Lyft and Uber. How would you approach this issue in the legislature that you'll be soon joining? And I use legislature as a total body. And we'll start with you, Mr. Walker.
You mentioned Uber, and what was the other one, Lyft?
Lyft.
Okay, so
Airbnb, that's the hotel.
I've actually used, as old as I am, I have used Uber before, believe it or not. But I'm an insurance agent, and without the right legislation, the Uber drivers, they are private independent contractors. And they weren't required to carry any limits of liability except for the state minimum, which is $25,000 bodily injury per person, $50,000 per accident. Well, you all know if you have a serious injury, you can't get treated for $25,000 at the hospital if you've got major injuries or multiple people hurt. So it's good to say, well, we're for free enterprise, and I certainly am, but sometimes you need some regulation. And the taxi industry is regulated, and it's an unfair playing field for the taxi industry. So there is a place for legislation and laws and regulation when it comes to protecting the well-being of the citizens of Georgia. And so you've got to study these big issues. You've got to be receptive to experts in the industry and listen to what they have to say, and use some discernment as to what's best for the district. And that's what I intend to do.
Mr. Pettis.
Yes, sir. With the base here, as you've seen in statistics, it represents about 52% of every dollar. So that puts 48% on the small business owner. Well, I am that 48%. I know what it's like to be a business owner. I know what it's like to go through, jump into hoops to try to open a business. And I'll speak specifically about the craft beer, and I may not have all my facts right because I'm kind of going off the cuff, but I'll be glad to talk about it later. But there are 4 wholesalers in Georgia, signed off, passed by legislators, and signed off by the governor. So you have a wholesaler, somebody, if you want to make craft beer, I'm going to use my hands, so bear with me, see how I follow. If you want to make craft beer, if you're the producer, you're going to send it to a wholesaler, they make money. You'll send it to distributor, they make money. Then you can go to a store, they make money, and then you get to the end user. Who has won? Has the business owner? Has the end user? No. Politicians are the people who have won this. It's a legislative monopoly. We have to stop that. It's craft beer. Bubba wants to brew beer in his garage and sell it. Bubba should get it.
Mr. Reese.
Well, I travel quite a bit, and I use Uber all the time. I think the drivers are, the ones I've encountered, have been very polite. They charge a fair rate. They're required by Uber to carry the state minimum requirements on insurance, and most people, I'm sure, carry the insurance. In Florida, I know I use them all the time, and I've never had an issue with them. And I think, you know, if we say that they can't do this, you know, we cater to the taxi drivers. I mean, they're unions, and they're going to control how much we pay. I mean, if you take a taxi cab from Atlanta to the airport, it's $40. You can take an Uber for the same thing, $9. So, I mean, it's free enterprise. I think, you know, they're out there doing a good thing, and I'm all for it.
So are you saying if you have a limousine business and you're an Uber driver and you own a limousine and you have 6 or 8 passengers and you're carrying them from the airport to their hotel in downtown Atlanta and you have a bad wreck and 6 or 8 of them get hurt, all they should have is state minimum liability limits? I just think that's irresponsible. I think they need to carry much higher limits than that to protect the consumer. These are not corporations. You can't, Uber does not own the limousine and Uber is not the driver. These are independent contractors, and just like when you go on a job, you're required to have certain liability limits to do the job or even be bonded. I just think that's irresponsible to say they can have 25,000 limits for a limousine service. I would not agree with that.
Mr. Reese, you can respond.
Well, you know, the legislation set the law on insurance requirements. You know, we didn't. So, you know, they have a right to
that's what I'm saying. We need legislation to require them to carry higher limits. In this case, that's one he mentioned. I mean, I know we're over-regulated, but
Let him respond, Mr.
I'm
Reese.
sorry.
Uber has more than one. They have Uber XL, and they have Uber Black. Each one carries different liabilities. Each one carries different passengers. I mean, we've used them all, and we've never had any problems with any of them.
Thank you. Mr. Jeffers.
That's why it's so important that we read everything before we make a decision on what we're going to legislate in the House or in the Senate. Personally, I am not as well versed on this issue as some, but if I have to make a decision on it, you can be sure I will be.
Mr. Martin.
Yeah, I think we've done a pretty good job on this topic. One thing I'll take is a little bit different approach on small business and big business, and not demonizing big business over small business. I think there's some of that is afoot. For example, there's a local company here in our area that makes a part for Boeing and Airbus, and they're able to make that part, deliver that part in a shorter time frame for less money for Boeing and Airbus. A small company is doing that. That is a wonderful thing for a small community to be able to do that. We need to support that, but if it were not for Boeing and for Airbus, they would not be able to have those 25 to 30 jobs delivering that part. So I think we've got to get out of the mix of demonizing big business or small business or choosing one over the other.
Kessler.
How many people in here have taken an Uber? Why did you do it? Because it was cheap and convenient, and it was right there. Cheap, exactly right. I agree with Mr. Walker and I agree with Mr. Reese. We do need regulation, but free enterprise is what makes America great. The fact that I can create a product and get it to you for cheaper is the ingenuity of America. Mr. Pettis talked about the craft beer, the same thing. I should be allowed to make it in my house. Mr. Walker's also right. We should be able to regulate it. I actually used to work in insurance as well, and 25, 50, 25 is the state minimum. I would feel much safer riding with someone that did 100, 300, 100 limits. However, it's my choice to hop in an Uber, or it's my choice to take a cab. And so as a legislator, we have to have the rights of our people in mind, and we have to promote the free enterprise. That's what drives big business. That's what drives small business.
Thank you. Next question. Our publisher, Don Bailey, and I were at a meeting last week where A young man from Atlanta said that in 10 years, we're talking about jobs that do not exist yet. What can the state General Assembly do to foster that kind of innovation? And how will that kind of innovation support something that provides 52 cents out of every dollar for Middle Georgia? And we'll start with you, Mr. Kessler.
I'm currently working on my master's degree in education in learning design and technology from the University of Georgia. And that's what we talk about. To plan for the future, we're already behind. We've got to plan for now. So what we need to do is create a workforce. The film industry is booming. We're the third largest industry in the country here in Georgia. We've got to create technical jobs for the film industry. We've got to create digital jobs. We need to make our technical schools, we need to pump into our K through 12 schools. We've got to get more technology in the schools. Again, I'm an executive vice president for a technology company, and going to different schools, they don't have the equipment in the schools that they have at home. Kids are going to school at 6 and 7 years old, knowing more on how to use the different devices than their teachers do. It's not their teacher's fault. The teachers have not been trained for it. So we have to promote in this economy, in this state, we've got to promote technical education for our teachers on the jobs that will be created. We've got to promote technical education for films. Those are the industries that will survive and that will last, that we can create for the next 10 years and beyond.
Mr. Walker.
Robbins, of course, as you stated in your question, is the economic engine of Middle Georgia. It's the largest industrial complex in the state. It employs over 22,000 people, and we've got to educate folks. If they need software engineers at Robbins, our technical colleges and our universities need to produce the software engineers locally that they need. We need to support that, and we need to do everything we can to support the base and develop the workforce that they need to survive the next BRAC and to get new missions and to grow.
Mr. Pettis.
I think it would be great, Mr. Charles, if the Georgia Assembly would just stay out of the way. They have to trust with the entrepreneur. They have to empower the entrepreneur, cut the red tape for small business ownership, provide tax incentives, make funds readily available. I'm passionate about this because I remember all the hoops that I've jumped through. On more than one occasion, I've met with different business owners who want to be entrepreneurs. They want to do it, but it's not worth the time, energy, and effort. I believe competition, as iron sharpens iron, competition drives people. And as those jobs become available, an entrepreneur, they'll figure it out because that's what we do.
Mr. Reese.
Well, right now, as we speak, we've got 144,000 jobs available in Georgia right now. We don't have any skilled people to fill those positions. And the reason why, because we have everybody's wanting to go to college and want to get a degree and want to be a lawyer or a doctor. But we need, like I said before, we need skilled tradesmen. We've had an open invitation for our company for 20 years for employees. We cannot fill it. We need employees now. We can't get employees because we can't get people skilled. The people we do get, some of these schools have no knowledge. I mean, we have to train them. As soon as we train them, they go out and start their own business. So, I agree with Mr. Pettis. The legislation needs to stay out of it.
Mr. Child.
I was at a job fair yesterday, to be exact. There was I won't name the company, but there was a company there begging for students to have jobs. They are even giving $3,000 incentive bonus. So jobs, we hear that. We know that that's a huge problem. But we have got to have our schools, our technical schools, our people, we have got to partner with the industries that have these jobs. The lady was standing there saying, everyone is talking about there's no work, there's plenty of work, but we don't have the skill levels that we need to fill those positions. So I think we have got to do a better job when it comes to partnering. Our educational model needs to change somewhat. If we know we're going to have a certain industry here, because we are talking about we need to bring industry here, then we need to also make sure that the curriculum in some of the schools fit what we're trying to bring here tomorrow.
Mr. Martin.
I think we have to utilize our technology, elementary school. Things are moving that way faster and faster with technology. But we also need to make sure that with our College and Career Academy CAT programs, that we are working for training our students for jobs in the CNC field, tool and die making, welding. You know, if you come to Dublin right now and you have a certificate in welding, we have plenty of jobs, $20 an hour jobs. Those are out there, and we need to make sure that we are letting our parents, our middle school students know of the jobs that are coming in the next 10 years and making sure that they're choosing the right path for them to be able to be prepared for jobs that are coming in the future.
Thank you. Final question tonight before your closing statements. This one ought to be one that y'all can knock out of the ballpark. How does your faith play in the decisions that you make? And we'll start with you, Mr. Walker.
Well, I feel led to serve this community that's been so good to me. I've been really blessed with I was born into a loving family, and I have a loving wife and a successful business, and the Lord's really blessed me, and I want to give back to the community that's given so much to me, and that's why I'm running. I want to serve the community. I think we have an obligation to our fellow man to help them. My faith also teaches me to love my neighbor, and so that's part of the reason I'm running, is I want to do what I can for Senate District 20 to pull people up and help them where we can.
Mr. Pettis.
I'd say faith would play a very important part in my life, and also this decision to run for state senate. Christian, try to do everything in prayer. I'll be the first to admit, like Paul and Romans probably said already, like the chief sinner. But at the end of the day, we have to do the best we can. And I think in the scripture, one of the gospels is about if you're a teacher, teach to the best of your ability. If you're a leader, lead to the best of your ability. And I think I've shown that in my business, and I hope to take that to state senate.
Mr. Reese.
Well, I have very strong Christian beliefs. I've always, most of my adult life, I've tried to live a Christian life. I've tried to help my neighbor. I've tried to do what's right. And a lot of times I go out of my way to help other people. I mean, you know, my decisions would be based on, I guess, biblical standards. I would try to do what's right. But I know sometimes you have to vote on things that you don't think is right. So then you just got to use your heart and seek God, seek His guidance on those things that you don't know.
Mr. Charles.
I stand in pulpit several Sundays out of the month, and I speak to a congregation about what thus says the Lord. And I try to live my life accordingly. I have proven documentation of what I do. I said I serve with a servant's heart. I do that. Ask the many organizations where you see me, not for a paycheck, but because I am taught that I am to serve the community. From HODAC to Habitat for Humanity, for Back to School Batch, for Feed the City. I've done all of those. In fact, one woman said, one thing I can say about Vivian, I've seen her on her knees, not praying, but with a hammer in her hand to help build a home for someone who needed a house. That is how I am driven, by what He says. And I'm talking about what He says. That's how I live. That's how I instruct my children to live. And it says, love one another. It also says to take care of one another. And I think about when it talks about that lost sheep, if just one is lost. And that's how I feel about this community in this district. If one community is lost, it is my job, if I can, to make it better. And that's why I'm asking for your vote.
Mr. Martin.
Yeah, I am proud to say that I am a Christian. I accepted Christ in 1986. Was raised in a great Christian home. Not perfect by any stretch, but always was taught to treat others the way you want to be treated. I think that's important. I think it's more of value today that whenever we are sitting down to talk to someone that doesn't necessarily have the viewpoint that we have, that we're able to have that open conversation and dialogue with them, to listen to them first. Daddy always said you got 2 ears and 1 mouth. That should tell you something, son. That's important. We need to get back to that, to listening to the people that we're talking to. But then at the same time, we have to have convictions, things that we believe in, core values, a moral compass that can hold us in the right direction, even when things come that are not always good for us. So faith is an important part. It is who I am. It's why I'm here. I believe that there is a higher power that is in control, and everything's going to be all right.
Mr. Kessler.
My grandparents are sitting right there, and my mother's right behind them. I was raised with the help of my grandparents and my mother, watching a godly man read scripture every night with his wife. And if I accomplished nothing in life but to have my grandchildren look at me the way that I look at the two of them, I've done what I've wanted to do. Proverbs 27:19 says, as water reflects the face, so the man's heart reflects the man. Faith without works is dead. So what does our faith do? Our faith is everything. If we don't show it, if we don't live it, again, I've told you, I want to be known as a man of integrity. I want to be known as a man of God. I want to be your state senator. I want to represent you. But above all things, I want you to know me as a man of God. I know my wife would say that. I know my children would say that. That is my goal in life, is for you to know that. Everything that I do is based on my belief in Jesus Christ. The way that I love people, the way that I serve people, all of that is based on my faith. So how will my faith dictate that? I'm nothing without my faith. So everything I do will be based on that.
Thank you all. Now we go to our 1 minute final comments. We started off on this side. For the final comments, we'll start on that side with Mr. Reese.
The first step in solving any problem is realizing there is one. In my business, I face many problems every day, and I have to be innovative in solving those problems. You know, I'm a product of Making Tech. I learned there. They taught me how to think, they taught me how to search, and they taught me how to solve problems that's presented today. I want to use those same problem-solving skills to shape our community. Because today we're faced with many challenges. We're faced with problems in education, jobs, military support, immigration, taxes. But most importantly, we're faced with taking care of our families. So I appreciate your time here tonight, and I hope you can you join me in shaping the future of District 20. And I appreciate your vote, and remember, I like mine. Thank you.
Pettis.
Mr. Charles, thank you very much for being the moderator. People in the audience, thank you very much for attending. I'm a product of this district, living in Allentown, going to school in Lawrence County, on businesses in Pulaski County, Bleckley County, and even here in Houston County where my wife's a teacher. I will work hard to stop the unintended consequences of government and to stop government overreach. I'm a problem solver. I do that in my business daily. I will certainly do that for you in the state senate. I think leaders must be mindful of quick fix solutions that result in long-term failures. We cannot continue to kick the can down the road and affect our future generations. I'll ask for your votes. I appreciate your support. I'll be available after. Thank you very much for attending.
Mr. Walker.
Thank you all for being here tonight and for your attentiveness. You've been a great audience, and thank you to the other candidates. You all have done a fine job tonight. You know, this election is about sending the right leader to represent us in the state senate. And with your support, I'm going to put my leadership ability and my experience to work for you to represent your interests and stand up for our conservative principles. I'll use some Middle Georgia common sense, and I'll work tirelessly to secure the future of Robins Air Force Base, to grow jobs and cut taxes, to strengthen public education, and to protect our principles and our freedoms. You have my word. As your senator, I will always put your interests first, not the special interests. It would be an honor to serve you in the state senate. I humbly ask for your prayers and your vote. God bless you, and God bless America. Thank you.
Kessler.
Thank you all for attending tonight. I hope this has been as fun for you as it has been for the 6 of us, I'm sure. You have a voice, and with that voice, you're given one vote. I'm sure the majority of you here tonight came here knowing who you're voting for, and that's great. It's great that we have this turnout. Larry's already voted. What I would ask you, who represents you? I was born and raised in Warner Robins. I moved back in 2009 with my wife when our children were 3 and 1 because there was nowhere else on earth that I wanted to raise my children. My family is here. I wanted to raise my kids in the same school system that I grew up in. I'm running because I have a plan to make a better place in this wonderful community of ours. I'm running because I want to see our education system improve. We have to do it, or we're not going to have teachers 10 years from now. Our students are going to struggle. My children, your children, are going to struggle from that. I want to be your voice. This is hard. There's no question. The last couple of weeks have been very difficult, knocking on doors, shaking hands, doing the things that it takes to win this. You've received mailers, you've seen yard signs, you're going to see more, I promise, in the next 2 weeks. Ask yourself, how are you going to do the things that you're telling me in your generic one-liners? You're going to get things from all of us. How are you going to do it? Why do I want Brooks Keesler to represent me? You want me to represent me because I am one of you. I grew up here, I have a passion for this community, and I want to be your state senator. I hope you'll vote for me. If not, I hope you'll vote. I hope you'll be active. I hope that you'll be a voice for us because we need it, and this is a phenomenal place to make a good difference. Thank you.
Mr. Martin.
Thank you. Appreciate all of you being here. It has been a pleasure. I've been in education for 10 years. I've worked in small business. I understand regulations. Working in the long-term care pharmacy industry, we certainly understand regulations that can impact us locally. Being a part of the County Commission in Lawrence County, I understand state and local government, how those things are tied together. I also understand the very important factor of bringing jobs to Middle Georgia. That's what we need. I have the experience in being able to work with a great community and how we do that. Whenever you make your decision, if you voted early or you're still waiting, when you go to the poll, if you're looking for a conservative that'll be there for you every time, and also remember who put him in Atlanta, then I'm your candidate. I appreciate your vote and I appreciate your support.
Thank you. Many of us have heard tonight of what we all will do once we are elected. I ask you, just like I said with a resume, you look at a resume to see what someone has already done. And that will also tell you, most importantly, what they might do in the future. Check my resume. When I talk about education, it's because I've been there. When I talk about Robins Air Force Base, it's because I have a direct line there. I know most in leadership. I served with the airmen. I served food. In fact, I've housed the airmen when we have been in other states or wherever I've been. When I talk about these things, it's because I've done those things. And I would like to be able to do them again as your senator. We've traveled many, many years. I was born in Georgia, in East Point, Georgia, small town out of Atlanta. But I was blessed to be able to travel the world to see how other people do things, which means I can come back here now and serve this great state in which we live. So yes, I'm asking for your vote. I may not have all the words, you can pay anyone to tell you and prepare you to say whatever they need to say. But you have to have a heart and be willing to do those things without a paycheck or without someone owing to someone. I'm not owing to anyone but to you, this district. So I ask for your vote. Some people say it doesn't matter. It does matter. Every voice matters. Thank you.
Thank you all. I'd like to thank the Robins Regional Chamber, April Bragg. Here, Chambers here, is the Dublin radio station here. And we're supposed to show up and broadcast it back to Lawrence County. WMAZ for streaming. Thank you all for being here. And a big hand for the sound crew. You know how hard it is to handle 7 microphones in such close proximity? They do a great job. Pella Murphy with the Middle Georgia State University. And most of all, 6 fine candidates that you all have to go out and vote for on December 1st. Take some friends. Because we want to see a great turnout. Please put your hands together for these fine musicians. Have a great night and drive on the
Good job, man.
Good job.